I am a correctional officer, and I've got one of the toughest jobs in the world. I go to work every day to provide for my little girl, and I owe it to her to make it back home safely and in one piece. So if there's any information out there that can help me do that, then I need to know about it. A coworker told me about the book, Correction Officer's Guide to Understanding Inmates, so I figured I'd check it out. It's written by a correctional officer like me, who tells how to have a successful career in corrections and avoid the pitfalls of the job. It has great recommendations and has solid reviews. It's available at Amazon.com in paperback and on Kindle for $9.99. Just a few clicks and the book is on its way. I am a correctional officer. Yes, I have a tough job, and I have to do everything I can to make it back home to my little girl.
Well, I found out that a transaction was made, and this was after he threw a party in Koonce in the city, and he was bragging about going to Israel, not once but twice. And I started to question, why would the COBA president in New York City have to go to Israel for any reason on the behalf of correction officers? And I started asking questions, and I find out that he made this $5 million transaction to the same company that sent him once. The union sent him once, and then this company sent him once.
Platinum Partners, the hedge fund?
Yes, it was a Israeli group
Okay.
that sent him out. Okay. And then shortly after that, when he came back, he sent all the officers to this Museum of Tolerance in Manhattan. I don't know why he sent us there, but he sent every COBA member, the delegates, the board members, the support staff. They were mandated to go. They went to this Museum of Tolerance. They told you about having tolerance, whatever. The museum is affiliated and or owned by the same company that sent him to Israel, which is the same company that he invested this money in. Shortly after that, I see Billy Kwasnicki from the union and Sean Jones from the department coming down to the ESU compound. In tow, these black vehicles all pull up. There's this company that's selling security equipment. Now, I know that there's a vetting process for any type of security equipment the department buys or anything of that sort. And this company just came right onto the ESU compound and they started pitching this security equipment. Well, I did a little bit of research, and the company wound up being affiliated with the same people. So at this point, I'm upset. I'm starting to think about things. This was confirmed with a conversation that I had with the treasurer. Treasurer pretty much told me, listen, this guy invested this money into this fund.
Okay, let me just stop you right here for a second. Now, the $5 million investment. Now, okay, you're a part of the executive board. Doesn't the executive board have to vote on whether or not money is invested in a
As a
hedge
matter
fund
of fact,
or
yes.
anything like that?
Anything.
So what happened there? Were you on the board when did you have a vote to vote for that money being sent to that hedge fund? Or
I did not have a vote.
Okay,
and I found
not?
it odd because the executive board is supposed to make these decisions on the money, any investment that we make. I was never involved in that decision, and I found it odd. And others were later on found out that they weren't involved in the decision either, and I found that odd. What happened is I find out later that they made a subdivision of the executive board that they asked or ran this investment past. Anyway, to answer your question, myself and Norman would have a back and forth. I started to look into this investment. I started to ask questions. I started to ask, why is it that we don't get financial reports? I would like to have financial reports. The bylaw says that the treasurer is supposed to provide financial reports to the executive board at every executive board meeting.
And that wasn't taking place?
That never happened. That never happened. Right. And I asked for it to start happening.
Hold on. Now, you came onto the executive board in 2010. You were elected in 2012.
Yes.
So in those 2 years, there was no report from the treasurer about what the executive board was doing or what Norman was doing in terms of investments and things like that.
No, as a matter of fact, this transaction allegedly happened in 2014. And from 2012, when I was elected, until 2014, we never got financial reports from the treasurer. I mean, every once in a while, they would give a remedial report where they would give the totals on different accounts. Here's the general fund that has this much in it. Here's the annuity fund's got this much in it. The Widow and Children's Fund, they have this much in it. But nothing with regards to transaction history or anything specific at all.
Just general, vague kind of.
And I requested that we begin to do this. And at first he said no. And then he said, okay, we'll do it. Now I tried to get it retroactive to the date that I was told that he made this $5 million investment.
Right.
He would not let it go back that far. He said, we'll do the financial reports, but we'll start next month. Okay. So he knew, I believe he knew that I was onto it.
He knew that you knew about the $5 million.
And that's where I was started to ask questions about the finances, and I even asked to see the books on several occasions and was denied to do that. Wouldn't let it happen. Although the bylaw says that any executive board member, upon reasonable request, will be authorized to view the books of the association. That didn't happen.
So was there some sort of change in the bylaws to let him do this, or is this against the bylaws what he did, or was there some sort of change in the bylaws that allowed him to do it?
Both. It's against the bylaws what he did, because the executive board is to make all financial decisions of the union
as a group,
and that did not happen. So there's the violation of the bylaws. The bylaws were changed in 2012, and there were clauses in the bylaws and checks and balances when it came to money. After a certain amount of money, you would have to come before the board. After a certain amount of money, you would have to go before the membership. And these clauses are no longer found in our bylaws.
Now I remember when I was on the job, there was a dollar amount that if the union spent a certain amount, that they would have to come to the membership and let them know or have them vote on it.
Sure.
Before the bylaws were changed, what was the amounts that were in place? Do you have any recollection of that?
I don't recall the specific amounts. I would have to refer to the
But
document.
it wasn't in the millions, right?
Somewhere about $100,000.
Gotcha.
Anything over that, the membership had to say yay or nay.
And at least the executive board should have to say yay or nay.
And that would certainly be a check that would stop arbitrary financial decisions like what happened. I'll give you an example. John Liu was running for the mayoral campaign. John Liu, from the start, was a losing ticket.
John Liu is the state controller?
He was the city comptroller at the time, and he was running for mayor.
Right.
And, he never really got on the polls, really. He was very low all the time, and it was a weird bet. But he endorsed him, and we were driving to work one day. I was driving to work, and I hear the radio saying that the COBA had exceeded campaign finance laws by giving a $250,000 donation to John Liu's campaign. And I was angry. And I started calling other board members, and I said, did you hear about this? Did you know about this? And they didn't. I'm giving you that example to show that he would make arbitrary decisions and not involve the board in these decisions and just do things. And if 10 of us were responsible for everything, then you certainly need to at least have a discussion with the 10 of us.
Right. Ultimately, all of you guys are responsible for what is going on.
Absolutely.
You can't say, well, I'm not part of that. You are,
Absolutely
because you were elected to represent us.
As a matter of fact, this federal investigation that's on right now, the one that Norman got caught up with, that resulted in his arrest and his future prosecution of these RICO crimes.
And his suspension from the department.
And his suspension and his removal from the union.
Right.
That very same investigation involves the executive board. It's still current.
Right.
They're still under federal investigation, as is the attorneys, COBA attorneys.
Okay.
They're all involved in this criminal investigation, and it's still going on.
Now, before we get too far, I'm going to ask a question that probably most people would want to know.
Okay.
If you're on the executive board and bylaws are being changed, were you part of that change? Were you, part of the body that's voting to change these laws?
Yes, I was present during the change of the bylaws.
Okay.
The bylaws change was originally Elias's great idea. He had this idea. He had plans for the future. He had, one of them was to run unopposed in the union. Others were like the satellite office and different things. They had this agenda. So he proposed the bylaws change. He did it at a meeting, or should I say we did it, because we're all COBA. At a meeting, the bylaws change was proposed. They wrote it down. They wrote down the changes that they wanted to make, and they put it before the membership. And I was present during this change.
So you mean it like the general membership meeting?
Yes.
Not just the executive board meeting, but the general membership
Right.
meeting. Okay.
I mean, it happened at an executive board meeting.
Right.
He proposed this change, but again, like most executive board meetings, we really didn't get a vote. This was. I'm going to give you a little a colorful version of what one of our votes looks like. Okay, myself being Norman Seabrook, and I'm going to look into the camera when I say it. I'll be Norman Seabrook, and you guys be the board. And I'll say, I'm thinking about purchasing Justin Timberlake Jay-Z tickets. Does anyone have a problem with that? Okay. Treasurer, pick up some Justin Timberlake Jay-Z tickets. Pick up this, that, the other thing, the other thing. Thank you. And that was considered a vote. The fact that nobody said anything when they were pretty much threatened, went down as a vote. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.